Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining us from, and welcome, Your Excellency Professor Yami Osinbajo and Ambassador Adanyaka Asakan. My name is Basilili Liu, the lead on transforming education at UNESCO ESAC. Thank you all for being here today to share, to listen, and to join the mission in promoting EdTech for transforming education in Nigeria, with youth, through youth, and for youth. To open the session, please allow me very quickly share a bit of the background on where we have got here. Conveyed by the United Nations Secretary General during the 77th United Nations General Assembly, the Transforming Education Summit provided a unique opportunity to elevate education to the top of global political agenda while bringing the priorities and aspirations of young people to the forefront through inclusive dialogues and meaningful engagement. A United Nations Youth Declaration on Education, which focuses on increasing youth empowerment and leadership in transforming education, calls for support and investment in young people's meaningful, effective, diverse, and safe engagement in the design, implementation, execution, monitoring, and evaluation of the process to transforming education, especially the young people from vulnerable and marginalized communities. The Youth Declaration was launched at the Transforming Education Summit as young people's input to the Secretary General's vision statement to further the 2030 agenda, outlining the collective visions, demands, and commitment from youth on transforming education through consultations with 500,000 youth across 170 countries. And to respond to the Youth Declaration, the United Nations Global Youth Initiative, so far the highest level of UN initiative on youth education, has been co-created by youth and student networks, as well as other partners, including the Youth Office at the UN Office of Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, UNESCO, GEM Report, UNICEF, UNHCR, the World Bank, and UNESCO SDG for Youth Network. Among the Global Youth Initiative, capacity building is the key. The capacity of youth and students, especially the most marginalized, is yet to be strengthened as enablers for them to become agents of change in transforming education in their specific national context. As such, UNESCO, through the leadership of UNESCO ESAC, has been given the mission to launch upskilling trainings on policy and project implementation skills to support young education stakeholders across all 5 UNESCO regions in collaboration with our global partners on content creation and with our local organizers on the delivery of the training. After months of preparation, today marks a new beginning, and Africa is where we begin. More than 60% of Africa's population is under the age of 25. By 2030, young Africans are expected to constitute 42% of global youth. Given Africa's substantial population of young individuals, it is evident that the continent holds the key to shape the future of both the global labor market and the world at large. With our great honor, we're here today with our local organizer, Future Perspectives, based in Nigeria and serving Pan-Africa and global development. We have high respect on the education and innovation initiatives that leaders from Future Perspectives have always pushed for, as well as the focus to achieve so through equipping young people with relevant skills. With our deep respect to our partnership with Future Perspectives, we're confident to forward with the implementation of Global Youth Initiative in Nigeria and look forward to bringing bigger impact to Pan-Africa and the globe joining hands. We thank you, each and every one of you, for being here today to contribute to transforming education. Now, please kindly let me pass the floor to our dear friends at Future Perspectives to take the lead on the EdTech to transform education consultation in Nigeria. Abby, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Lily. I really appreciate your insights and also giving us background on the Youth Declaration and the importance of it as we look to transforming education, not just in Nigeria or Africa, but around the globe. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Again, to our founder and the immediate Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, good afternoon. To our ambassador of the Nigeria to Canada, Ambassador Adeyinka Shekun, good morning to you. My name is Abby Shekun, and I'm the director at Future Perspectives. We are an organization that offers a dynamic platform dedicated to shaping a better Africa. We operate at the forefront of transformative initiatives, pushing boundaries and embracing the potential for positive change. Our organization focuses on three major pillars right now: innovation, climate change action, and education. And we believe by leveraging education, our African youth have the potential to unlock transformative power, thereby equipping them with the skills and knowledge to generate innovative solutions, become leaders, championing education as a catalyst for social and economic development that ultimately creates opportunities that can propel our societies forward. With that being said, it is a great honor that I introduce our keynote speaker, our special guest. He's also the immediate Vice President of Nigeria and the founder of Future Perspectives, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Over to you, sir.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be today. It's a real pleasure to be here at this very important dialogue on EdTech for transforming education in Nigeria. Future Perspectives is a new organization and perhaps a new type of organization. And I'm sure you've heard already from Abi quite a bit about what Future Perspectives is about. Although I'm set to be the founding chairman, I'm actually a co-founder alongside some very young people, including Abimbola Ajekun, who just introduced me. The point really is that all across the world, it's becoming evident to organizations and thought leaders alike that no matter the resources available or the great ideas we may have, very little of the change that we desire can be accomplished without young people stepping up to their roles as catalysts and innovators of change. So our belief at Future Perspectives is that Africa's young voices will not only be at the fore of shaping crucial global conversations, but also will be a driving force to some of the most pressing challenges that face our continent today. But today the conversation is about education. And education is the cornerstone of our work at Future Perspectives. And I think that if there were a single issue that could address the problems of poverty, of joblessness, of inequality, and even better health outcomes, perhaps, especially in developing countries, it would most likely be education. So education stands at the, really the pillar, the major pillar of our work, and we recognize its profound impact on social change and youth empowerment. Our mission aligns perfectly with the aspirations of the high-level UN Transforming Education Summit. And that was a crucial global summit held in September last year, which responded urgently to the global education crisis and placed education at the forefront of the global agenda. So a key achievement of the United Nations, a key achievement of the summit, of the summit in September, is the United Nations Global Youth Initiative, GYI. The Global Youth Initiative is the first multi-stakeholder global initiative created to enable young people engage and take leadership in education policymaking. So perhaps for the first time ever, young people are serious partners in the ideation and development of educational policies and practice, and they will become leaders in education policymaking, and in effect, own educational policies and become architects of their own educational journeys. And we at Future Perspectives are proud to be key partners in this groundbreaking global initiative dedicated to ensuring meaningful youth engagement and leadership in education policymaking, and also empowering young minds to become real architects of their own educational destinies. I'm particularly delighted about our collaboration with UNESCO ISALC, who leads the capacity building components of GOI, and to co-launch the Innovation to Transform Education Training, ITED, in Nigeria later this year. So Future Perspectives, in partnership with UNESCO ISALC, will work towards strengthening the capacity of youth and students, especially the most marginalized, to enable them become agents of change in transforming education in their specific national situations through the Innovation to Transform Education Training, ITED. And this will involve equipping young education innovators with the real skills of innovation, policy, and implementation that they need. And these skills, of course, will be essential in supporting their initiatives to engage meaningfully in educational practices and decision-making. And for us in Nigeria, this initiative is even more significant. Our population is growing at 6 million young people per year. And so we have to prepare perhaps the largest number of young people on the continent for well-paying jobs now and in the future. So good education for such large numbers clearly requires sound policies, innovation, and effective implementation of policies. And today, our dialogue on EdTech for transforming education in Nigeria is poised to be an eye-opening experience. We anticipate that this discussion will help contextualize the specific skills that our young EdTech innovators require to revolutionize education in Africa. And I'm thrilled to be kicking off the UN Capacity Building Project through this dialogue, where we'll have the privilege to hear directly from these young innovators. We'll learn about their challenges, solutions, and witness the tremendous impact that they're already making in society. I look forward to hearing from these remarkable young innovators and other education stakeholders. And I extend my very best wishes for a day filled with inspiration and insights. Thank you for joining us for this very important occasion. Thank you.
And we all give our co-founder and chairman a round of applause. Thank you so very much, sir, for your words of wisdom. We're excited to have you on with us and to share your perspectives, future perspectives with everyone. And now I would like to pass this on to my son's namesake, Lanre Oniyiton, who is our moderator for this event. Lanre, over to you.
Thank you very, very much. And I would like to give a round of applause to the co-founder of Future Perspectives again. My name is Olanrewaju Onito, and I'm the Executive Director of Seed Care and Support Foundation. As we all know, we're here for an exciting 2 hours, which we've kicked off already, talking about EdTech for transforming education. And with us, we have 6 amazing young innovators and stakeholders from different backgrounds. I mean, we have practitioners, creators, advocates, and policymakers. But before we start, I would like for us as he looks into the chat as we go on. So to kick off, we're going to have a video that will be showing to showcase our young innovators and their story. And we will come back thereafter to continue this session. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lanre Obenikwe, and I'm the founder of Imperial EdTech. We're an education technology company focused on the distribution of learning through digital and physical infrastructure. I believe that education innovation should be widely adopted because it's is a catalyst for nation building and human capacity development.
Hello everyone, my name is Joy, co-founder Career Day. Career Day is an EdTech platform that aims to empower students in making informed career decisions through provision of access to an extensive database of career profiles, career counseling, as well as the required skills and educational paths necessary for them to attain their future careers.
Hi everyone, my name is Julius Lori. I am the co-founder of Learner's Corner. Learner's Corner is an education tech company working to promote access to quality education and also to improve the learning outcomes of learners. I strongly believe that education innovation is important to be able to empower young people with the skills that is needed for them to thrive in the future and to achieve potential. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Onoja. I am the head of operations at All School Africa. Our goal is to empower more Africans to leverage technology to innovate, to provide solutions for the problems that we have around us. How we do that is by partnering with industry experts to leverage local resources and local context to create content for Africans by Africans. Thank you.
My name is I'm the founder and CEO at School EdTech. What keeps my team up day and night is the problem of poor teaching quality and also the challenges that schools face when they are trying to source for high quality talent to join their teaching workforce. And that's why my team built this digital platform that provides access to high quality teacher training that helps teachers become highly competent to deliver excellent learning to millions of students across sub-Saharan Africa. And we don't stop there. We also help these teachers find jobs in our partner schools.
Hi everyone, my name is Afiz, co-founder Community Tech Lab, where we use fellowship model to empower children in underserved communities with digital skills and 21st century life skills while we prepare them for the future workforce. We believe in innovative education and we are using this to transform education in underserved communities to help these children change the circumstances they've inherited by preparing them to become entrepreneurs and problem solvers.
Welcome back, and I hope we all enjoyed that video. Like I mentioned earlier, we have 6 amazing innovators amongst us who will be further sharing their stories. I would like to start by engaging Afiz to kick off this first round. Afiz, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you, Afiz. And so you're going to kick off this round by helping us to understand what one stressing education issue you are concerned about in Nigeria, and then use your story to tell us about the EdTech innovation that you have designed or you see a need to design to address this issue.
Okay, hi everyone.
Hi, we can hear you. And
okay, I would like to confirm if you can hear me clearly. Okay,
yes,
so thank you so much for the opportunity to be on this panel today. It's actually a pleasure and it's an honor to be here. So I work with, I work in a community where children could not, connect their experiences in secondary school to their expectation of the future. And you could imagine that only 2 out of every 20 students could go further beyond secondary school as a result of poverty, illiteracy, lack of purpose about education, and also because of their geographical background, because it's a riverine community in Ibejuleki, Lagos State here in Nigeria. They do not have access to electricity for the past 10 years, that's a decade. And we also struggled with internet accessibility, among other challenges. So this gives the children exposure. This gives children exposure to teenage pregnancy and teenage parenting, and as they survive on informal jobs. So we realized that this has been damaging the potential of these students in this community. And we had to come up with something to help them address these challenges. So that inspired the innovative project, the Community Tech Lab. And it started during my fellowship with Teach for Nigeria. So over the last 1 year, we've worked with students, community leaders, parents, teachers, and also education stakeholders to build a structure in the community where students could have access to learning resources, digital tools, and also mentorship to prepare them for the future workforce. And over the last 10 months, we have trained over 40 students on digital skills like graphic designing, interactive slide design, video editing, content creation, and we hope to add more tech skills to this in the coming cohort. We have also trained them on 21st century life skills like emotional intelligence, public speaking, presentation skills, and also design thinking for problem solving, because we want them to not just be knowledge consumers, but also become problem solvers for our community and also the world at large, while addressing the sustainable development goals. So it will interest you that through our program, we have trained students on how to design projects and also pitch their ideas, winning global opportunities and also global recognition. One of our students, who is Esther Remile, is currently serving as a global student from this same village in Hilagbo community as a Teach for All Global Student Leaders Advisory Council, and also benefiting from other international opportunities through Teach for All Network and also Teach for Nigeria. This was also recognized and spotlighted by the United Nations Youth Envoy when we celebrated the Youth-Led Innovation Festival just last week. All these were achievable with limited resources. And the story of one child is changing and transforming education in the Hilagbo community today. And imagine if we have enough support and partnership with key education stakeholders in Nigeria. So we want to reach more students and cascade to other marginalized communities in Nigeria, because we believe that every child deserves a chance to dream, a chance to learn, and a chance to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Afiz. I would pose the same question to Rachel Onoja, who is the head of operations with Old School Africa. Rachel, would you like to address this question as well?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you so much, everyone. I believe some of the opportunities that we've seen as an EdTech company are, we have a lot of room to fill, right? We have curriculums that are outdated. How can we support individuals in the country to have access to quality tech education, not just tech education, right? And some of the ways that we have done that, at least I started working with Andela Learning Community, where we empowered a lot of engineers to tap into the tech ecosystem. But then beyond that, a lot of people go through school and there's a major gap in, I graduated from school and then I need to go into the world. I personally studied computer science, and while studying, we had this experience of learning Fortran, COBOL, QBasic, and these are programming languages that were from like 50, 60 years ago, which means at the time I graduated from school, I had no need for these programming languages. So what we do at Old School is, how can we get people to be skilled to market ready? That is, empower them with everything they need. You don't need to have a degree, right? Our parents want us to have degrees, but then the world has moved away from that. We have companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, who have already striked out the whole degree part. Like, so long as you have the skill, get in there and do the work that's needed. So how can we empower more Nigerians, right, with the skills they need to build solutions? Not just learn. How can we make learning fun? How can we make learning experiential? How can we provide these individuals with all of the resources they need to go out there and identify problems in their ecosystem, problems within their immediate community? And we've seen great results over the past. We've been in existence for about, I think in October will be 2 years now. And just recently we graduated our first set of engineers, about 1,072 of them. And these are people who, more than 80% of them started out without any coding experience. Some of them have gone on to access internship opportunities. Now, why are we providing this solution? Because Africa has the youngest population, right? And we are literally the future of work. Until we're able to empower every individual to access the skill they need to help the world be a better place, all of the conversation around education, all of the conversation around healthy workspaces, it all starts from Africa, right? So how can we empower people to be ready for that shift? The revolution starts from Africa, but the revolution will not go anywhere if you don't give people the skills they need to make solutions for the world. So that is why we do what we do at Old School. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. So I'm going to pass this very quickly to Seun Kayode, who is the founder and CEO of School Linker.
All right. Hi, everyone. Really excited to be here and to share with everyone. My name is Oluwaseun Kayode, and I am the CEO and founder at Schoolinka. And the problem we're solving at Schoolinka is a problem of poor teaching quality. Growing up for me, I witnessed and experienced, poor quality education. And, it's very funny because you never can tell what is quality until you actually experience quality. And you never can tell what is better until you actually experience better. And so, I, lived and grew up in that kind of education system. And fast forward to after my university education, I got into a teaching fellowship. That's the Teach for Nigeria program. And I got to teach for 2 years in that program. And, that 2 years actually immersed me into the education sector better and helped me understand the myriad of challenges that are rocking education, especially when it comes to rural communities. And then even in those environments, those under-resourced environment, I saw magic happen as well, in the sense that we have few classrooms that are really doing well, even in under-resourced environment. We saw magic happen in classrooms that are being hosted under trees. And after looking into the difference between these high-performing classrooms and the seemingly not performing classrooms, I found out that there was a big difference. And the difference usually is in the quality of the person who is standing in front of the kids in these classrooms, most times the teachers. Right. So what I found out was the fact that if you have an extraordinary teacher, a competent teacher in a classroom, things can still happen, even if there are not enough resources. And so that's why I moved into creating a digital solution after my teaching fellowship called Schoolinka that can help to scale high quality teacher training across Nigeria, across Africa, whereby teachers, school leaders, they all have the power to access professional development in their hands. You will all agree with me that if we don't invest in teacher training, then quality learning cannot be delivered to millions of students that we have across the continent. And so what Schoolinka is doing really is to work with education experts to develop high quality teacher training courses that are developed by faculties in universities of education. And then we bring these resources together and use the vehicle of technology to move these resources down to these teachers and these school leaders wherever they are. And we don't just stop there. We also help these teachers find jobs in our partner schools. So what our digital platform does really is to solve the big problem that Africa faces right now, which is the fact that 30% of teachers in Africa are not well trained. This is a report stated by UNESCO. And also the fact that 60% of primary 6 pupils in Nigeria are not able to read and write in English language. And we do this really by empowering become highly competent to deliver excellent learning and rewrite the future of education. I'm so happy to be here to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Seun. And then we're going to quickly pass the baton to, who do I go to next? Julius Ilori, who is the co-founder, Learner's Corner Education Tech Hub. Julius?
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Julius Ilori. I'm the co-founder of Learner's Corner. Our journey started during the pandemic. As a foundation at that time, we discovered that a lot of people did not have access to education at that time because of the pandemic. So we decided to create like a mini library. We got teachers to share their lesson notes with us. We converted it into PDF files, and then we uploaded for students, and they were able to we're able to support them at that time. 2 years after, we started doing our assessment, and we discovered that young people want to learn beyond just seeing a teacher in the classroom. We decided to look into it in a more critical way. How can we improve the learning outcomes through creating engaging lessons? And that's what led to Learner's Corner. And today, Learner's Corner is currently a hub where we designed animations, cartoons to create physics classes, chemistry, so students can learn at their pace. They can learn on their own, and they're able to enjoy the learning, not just to come to class and go, but they're able to enjoy the learning, and they're able to improve their learning outcome that can really help them make better decisions after class sessions. And today we have a technology that we have also adopted to promote some of these contents that we are building in our hub, just to ensure that we can reach a lot of young people who don't have access to secondary school education. And it's exciting that down the line now, we have been able to support quite numbers of schools We're not just working with students, we're also trying to work with schools to ensure that teachers have more contents to show beyond just their slides. They're able to show documentaries, they're able to show videos in the classroom. Apart from just teaching and teaching, you're able to show animations to explain the concept of what you're trying to do, just to make learning more interesting and more interactive in the classroom. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Julius. Then I'm going to hand it over to Joy Ogbonna, who is the founder of Career Day. Joy?
Thank you so much, Larry, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joy. I am co-founder of Career Day. Career Day is really trying to solve the problems that students who are trying to make career decisions experience. It's all about aligning them with their interests, their passion, their strengths, their academic achievement, and to see how all of this all can come together to enable them make informed career decisions. So Career Day was born out of a mere conversation during my postgraduate study at the Nigerian University of Technology and Management. So I had two students who I happened to be mentoring, and I was constantly having conversations with them. And in one of those sessions, our conversation centered around making career choice. And in that session, I had other two scholars who were in the room, and they were listening on the conversation. And after I finished the session, we delved into the conversation around education and what education in Nigeria is all about. Is education a scam? Is schooling a scam? What do we really need to do to be able to get the quality life that we desire or want after university education? And it goes on and on like that, to the point where we begin to ask, well, why is it that the university system don't really prepare you for the future of work or for industry needs? So an example is where you finish university and then you come out and you find out that the skill that you really need to be able to do the job that you have been trained to do was not imparted in you. And then you find yourself going back to try to take it a step back just to maybe convert, do certification programs and all of the other things that we do just to fill up that gap and that space that has been created, really. So that was how we tried to see, okay, where did we even miss it? At what point do we miss that alignment with industry need, with that future of work need when we are making our career decisions? And we find that in Nigeria, the first career decision an individual makes is at that point where they are trying to choose whether to go into arts, sciences, or the commercial. And for me personally, that decision was made for me. So I was called into the guidance counselor's office and I was told that you're going to be a science student without being asked any question. Literally, my junior WAEC results spoke for me. I didn't get the chance to speak for myself. So all of this conversation went on, and that was how Career Day was born. And what we do at Career Day is to say, you have this passion, you have this interest, you are doing so well in this area of your academic and you're achieving so much. How can you then begin to align all of this together to enable you to make informed career decisions? And then we take it a step further by providing you with the information, the resources, and all of the things that you need really to attain that academic achievement and to attain that career and path that you're looking forward to. And I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to be sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joy. And finally, I would like to call on Victoria, who is the founder of One Africa Child, to wrap up this round for us.
Thank you so much, Larry, and greetings to everyone. I am truly honored to be here. For us at One African Child, the primary education issue that concerns us revolves around looking at the barriers and challenges hindering the progress in our education system. We all know that education is the gateway to achieving all the other sustainable development goals. It can help us to break the cycle of poverty. It can help to build peaceful and resilient society. It is needed for economic growth. Yet, education is one of the sectors that is least invested in. And how can we change that? what we have been doing at One African Child is to look into, early childhood education. First, education must begin at the foundational level, but not just any kind of education. We need high quality education, which is another thing that our country is missing. We heard the other speakers talk about improving the quality of learning. That's because many of us at this stage, we transitioned past, primary and secondary school stage, even so for some of us past higher education, or we are in our higher education level, and we've seen that just going to school does not guarantee that you will get, a quality job, or it does not guarantee that you would have all the amazing opportunities that you might have dreamed of at an early age. And what we are doing at One African Child is to bridge that gap through capacity building programs, advocacy at the high level. So we partnered with the different UN institutions, and we're also part of the team which led the Transforming Education Summit last year, both in Paris and in New York. And what we really advocate for when it comes down to education is the need to look at education from a systems change perspective, because when we talk about education, many of the issues that we are faced with, they do not stand alone. They are interconnected. We have multiple layers of barriers and also players who are involved in education. Oftentimes we say that the government are the duty bearers and the government are the one we should be investing in education, but we also have to think about parents that are not sending their children to school. When primary education and secondary education are free in Nigeria, we have to think about, the influence of religious leaders and different key stakeholders, and more importantly, the influence of young people, which I think is why we are gathered here today. In Nigeria has one of the, highest population of young people, with over half of our country's population being the youthful population. And I'm very excited to see today that we do not just have young people speaking to ourselves, that we also have the high-level leaders in the room, because I think that is super important, that when young people are sharing their ideas and opinion, that we also have the decision makers in high places who are there to listen and who are there to also carry forward all of these innovative ideas that we are sharing. For the work that we've done at One African Child, we've worked in some of the most underserved communities, like some of my other panelists have said. And one of the communities where we've worked is at Takwa Bay. Some of you might know Takwa Bay. It's a remote island in Lagos that is underserved. For the past 2 to 3 years, we've worked at Takwa Bay to deploy Colibri, which is a technology that can be used with limited or no internet. As we know, like, connectivity is a major problem in Nigeria. One of the things that we learned, or that I would like to share and see discussed in the conversation today, is to see how we can create solutions that are culturally sensitive, that are useful for the end users. Very often we think that any technological innovation that is innovative can be cascaded everywhere. But from working at Takwa Bay, we realized that some of these children do not understand how to navigate the internet. English is not the first language for many Nigerians. And so they also struggled, to engage with the resources that were available online. And we had to learn, to meet the community where they are. And another thing also is to engage the end users in the co-creation process. It's not enough to just come up with innovative ideas and say, we've developed something very innovative. Many technological innovation are very Western. We need to see how we can promote our own local-based solutions and also amplify that. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of the conversation, and I hope that everything that will be shared today will be carried forward to the next phase of this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. We couldn't have had someone wrap up this round for us with all of that insight. And I'm sure you would all agree. I see the chat room buzzing. We do have amazing youth innovators on our panel today, providing different innovative solutions. And so that will lead us into this next round. As Victoria said, let's delve deeper and let's, have that conversation around what enabling skills are needed to be able to apply EdTech to our own education or to innovate in the EdTech space for the benefit of other education stakeholders, like you mentioned, and we engage in the beneficiaries themselves. And I would like to first call on, because Victoria mentioned this, I don't want to call on you first. So I'm going to call on Sheon to address this first. We'll come back to you, Victoria. But Sheon, what do you think? What skills are required? What do we need?
Thank you so much, Larry. I'll just first start by saying that, it's really important, and I'm happy that this question is coming up. It's really important that we do not delve into the trap that we've always fallen into in education in the past, where anybody can just scroll into a classroom and pick a chalk and stand in front of a board and then call themselves a teacher. And I don't want us to get to that point with education technology as well. Education requires skills, it requires competencies for you to be able to deliver it effectively. And I think as EdTech innovators as well, we need to pay attention to that to ensure that we are building the right skills that is needed to build, the right solutions that will actually work for the beneficiaries that we are targeting. And I'm going to be very quick about this, right? So, and I think one of the most important skills that, education innovators need to possess is the skill of, the human design thinking approach to designing solutions, which covers skills around empathy and collaboration. And, most times, we've seen a lot of solutions that come up, and I'm guilty of that as well, because I've been able to develop solutions that actually do not work for the community that we designed it for. And going back to that, I found out that what was lacking in that part was empathy, in the sense that I wasn't able to go into the community, or I do not know that I needed to go into the community to learn from this community, to put myself in their shoes, to understand where the shoe hurts, to understand what are the pain points and what kind of solution can actually work. And so I think building empathy is a very integral skill that education innovators need to actually, have. Another is that of collaboration. I was at a conference one time and someone was mentioning that, oh, I love your solution. And then they see somebody else's solution and they say, I love this person's solution, but this person's headache was that, how can I bring let me take a feature from your solution, let me take a feature from this other person's solution and bring it together. I think one thing that we lack in EdTech currently right now is the fact that our solutions does not have an handshake point, right? So you want features of different platforms, but you don't know where you can bring all of this together. And I think instead of competition, where we start thinking of, I want to build the unicorn in education, I think we should think of collaboration more. How can we build handshaking point? How can we collaborate with other EdTech innovators to bring and create wholesome experience for the beneficiaries, right? And I also think that one critical skill that EdTech innovators need to learn about is instructional design. How can we develop solutions that will cater to the different learning styles in the community? The way real education cannot be one size fits all. That's how education technology should as well be. The EdTech products we're designing, how can we create it in a way that someone without internet is able to access, the person with internet is able to access, the person who earns 200 naira per day is able to access, and the person who has 2 billion naira per day is able to access. So it's really around what is the differentiation we're bringing into a solution that requires a high-level instructional design skills. And this is, I'm really excited about the GYI initiative and, of course, the ITED training platform that will help young innovators like me, like many other people who are thinking of groundbreaking solutions, to acquire deep skills that would help them, push their solutions forward and create innovations that will work for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheon. And we're going to go to Afiz, who is working in an underserved community, to share with us some of the skills that he believes that EdTech innovators need to have. Afiz, over to you.
All right, so thank you so much for the opportunity. And I would want to also agree with Kayode Oluwaseun for what he has shared, because he extensively discussed this. I think it is important for EdTech innovators to also understand their user very well, just like he has mentioned, because the first thing in creating solution must be empathy. So that empathy skills through emotional intelligence must be well understood. So a lot of people design solutions, and at the end of the day, these solutions are not directly beneficial to those who they really are targeting. And I think when we go through that process of checking and balance, does our solution work? Can we start again? Or even before getting to the point of starting again, how well have we tested it? to ensure that this works very well. And also the other thing is just is also that for EdTech innovators, I think it is not so important that because of the idea that we have today is that everything must be digital, everything must be online, internet. These tools are internet enabled, but what of children in underserved communities? How are we thinking about them? How are we being sincerely inclusive in creating this kind of resources for them? So that is why even through our community tech lab, we download all this content offline and give them, provide them a kind of store or storage on the devices that we have for them to have access to. Even if there is no teacher, they can have access to all those resources. Imagine a community where they don't have lights, and you are talking about, gadgets and all these things. How do we, think about all these things? I think Victoria Bowie mentioned something around Colibri, and without having access to internet and still making use of these devices, we need to create more opportunities for these kids. If you are also saying that innovation technology should be mostly online, what of those children in the communities? Are you getting to them? Are you really connecting them? Do they even understand what you're trying to solve? You're saying you want to let them understand robotics. For us, we need to start with basic digital skills first. How do you even access all these things before we start, all these advanced skills? So I think there's a lot of emotional intelligence work has to do with this, and also we need to build more on stakeholders engagement. I think that's very key. Stakeholders engagement. How do we work with people? When we want to start our project at Community Tech Lab, we have only a few amount of money grant that we want, 250,000 naira. And we bought only 2 laptops. We don't have any structure. We had to meet with the community stakeholders, the teachers, the community leaders, and the parents to go and fetch bamboo poles from the forest to come and build the structure that we are using. And this is where we are. We have our resources, and these children are, they are also the one that built it themselves, and we are learning. So, it's a lot that we continue to engage more of our stakeholders, even the students. I currently work with the students, and I have 3 of them on board as my co-founders for Community Tech Lab. And this is amazing that students are also being empowered to become problem solvers as well for problems in their community and the world at large. So emotional intelligence, stakeholders engagement, and being innovative is very, very much important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Afeez. And I will go back to Victoria now, who started this whole, what are the skills that are required? So Victoria, can you wrap this question for us with your own thoughts?
Thank you so much, Larry. I think my co-panelists have really covered a lot of ground. I would just add a few points, and one is on communication. I think when we think about EdTech, we are always thinking about the tool. It's an innovative tool, we have to use it, but oftentimes it's not so much about the tool. It's really asking, how can we get the users, how can we get the students or the young people who are going to use this to what do we want them to learn about with this tool, and then how can we activate this tool to serve them? So it's really doing a lot of pre-evaluation before we deploy the tool to the community, so that it can be useful, it can be meaningful, and most importantly, it can be sustainable for the type of outcomes that we want to see. And I think digital literacy skills are equally important. I think the panelists have mentioned this here and there. It really is the foundation. The world today is driven by technology. We would not be together in one room if it wasn't for technology, but we are still part of the privileged ones. There are millions of Nigeria who do not have access to these tools, and if they do, they don't know how to connect online. And so it's important to remember that we still need to teach proficiency in using these various digital tools. We need to teach people who are not where we are, how to navigate these online platforms, how to understand, basic programming tools. We need to teach the ethical aspect of that as well, because that is another, a whole other, topic to discuss about. How can you use the internet safely? There are so many parents or adults who are wary of having their children be online because they are scared of the type of information that they would be exposed to. But I think it's better to teach them how to engage with these tools in a safe and ethical manner, rather than to have them do it when they are not aware and then have them, get exposed to the adverse effects of technology. Technology is a tool. It ultimately depends on how we use it. And finally, another skill that I think is super important is futures literacy. Futures literacy is knowing how we can anticipate the future and preparing for it. I remember when I first learned how to use a computer, I was preparing for my JAM. Before then, I didn't think that I had to use the computer. But now, in order to advance in my career, I need to keep updating myself. And we remember also when, ChatGPT and a lot of AI tools are coming up these days, a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's going to take away jobs. I think our fear shouldn't be that our jobs will be taken, but how can we use this tool to amplify, what we can do? How can we outsmart this tool by getting to learn what it can do for us to, better present ourselves to opportunities that are around? So I think these are a few of things I think can help, and I'm looking forward to more from the other panelists. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to try and summarize what the three of you have said. So starting with futures literacy, digital literacy, we need to be literate in every aspect. Understanding what needs to be done, communication, emotional intelligence. Someone in the chat room mentioned not just emotional intelligence, but also financial intelligence is required. I do agree with that. Stakeholder engagement. We're all in this together. We need to all come together as stakeholders to be able to build the future that we want and ensure that all children are having access. Instructional design, very critical. Understanding the user linked to empathy. We need to know who we want to serve. And I wanted to end with collaboration. Collaboration over competition. It is really, really critical. Like, I look at all of the panelists and I say, how does what Sheun do with teachers link with the teachers with Afeez, the school that Afeez teaches? How do the teachers that Sheun have access to what Julius is doing? How do students in the school that Afeez works in and where Victoria works in get access to career day so that they make the right career decisions? There's a link with every panelist. We can see what everyone is doing, but we then need to find that area and that space for collaboration and, take that beyond just everyone in their own little space trying to do their own stuff. And, that's what this conversation and what this dialogue is all about. However, I would like us to move to the next question, because we all know it's easy to talk, but there are obstacles, right? And I would like us to look at what the main obstacles some of our panelists has faced, to identify the EdTech solutions or to innovate in EdTech as an entrepreneur. We know that things are not easy. We might even have the skills, but we're in Nigeria and we faced obstacles, right? And so I would like to call on Joy first. With Career Day, what obstacles have you faced so far?
All right, thank you so much, Larry, again, and thank you everybody for having me. And thank you, Victoria, Kayode, and Afeez for sharing. And I really want to also delve into some of the things you have shared before. One major obstacle that we have faced while building Career Day is that of stakeholders buy-in, right? Really getting them to become partners and collaborators in the solution that we are trying to provide. So you have concerns of stakeholders like not being aware of these platforms that exist, lack of confidence and trust for the platform, saying things like, how can I trust my child to be able to make decisions based on what he or she is learning online? And you also have concerns around people who have this traditional mindset. So for them, career decision is solely determined by academic achievement or just even family expectations. So really, what can an EdTech platform really do in helping my child in making decisions? And really, how can I trust my 10-year-old? How can I trust my 16-year-old to make the best decision that is suitable and that they won't end up regretting in the future? So getting stakeholders buy-in is really critical to what we are doing, and it's one challenge that we have faced and really tried to innovate around. So I remember going into a school and speaking to a counselor, and the question I got was, is this another disruptive innovation that is coming to kick us out of the guidance counseling job? I also remember having that conversation with the school owner who thought about the financial implication of having us embedded in their LMS and all. So there are these concerns that our stakeholders have as EdTech innovators, what then are we doing to begin to solve? So we are not just building for our users, but we are also building, having the interest and compassion for the concerns that other stakeholders have and really aligning with them. So it boils down to Career Day realizing that it is not just enough to build for the users and for the students. So we are not just building a dashboard for students, we're also building a dashboard for schools, and we're also building dashboard for parents. So we're empowering them with that level of transparency to see what we are doing, and then empowering them with that level of ownership and monitoring and overseeing really what their children are being exposed to. So that way they're able to collaborate more and even partner with us more in pushing the agenda forward. And what we do basically when we get to schools and we get to face these questions as they arise is to say, oh, why don't you take our interest test first? Okay, why don't you experience Career Day for yourself before you can then decide whether your child comes in or not? So it's really being that transparent and carrying them along while making that decision and while building that solution. So at the end of the day, we are not just building something that ends up causing more problem or that ends up not impacting or reaching the people that you want to reach really. And then another concern is that of accessibility. And Victoria had mentioned something around that space where you're building solution that is internet-based. You're building solutions that are digital and tools enabled. What about the users? Okay, are you able to reach them where they are? What is their digital capacity? Do they have access to these digital tools? What is their digital knowledge and experience? Do they have the knowledge and required skills to access and navigate through these platforms? So what we do for public secondary schools is really just even to collaborate with other EdTech solutions to say, how can we begin to help these children to build digital literacy, just like Hafiz would call it? How can we begin to help them to learn how they can navigate through platforms, how they can navigate through the internet? And then how can we also even begin to provide that security that comes with being a digital native, that security that comes with utilizing digital tools really. So these are like the obstacles that we have faced, and these are the ways that we have tried to innovate around them. And it's just really taking a step back to say, am I building something that does not just address the needs of the users, but also addresses the concern of other stakeholders? Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Joy. So I'm going to ask the same question to Julius. I mean, what obstacles have you faced and how have you innovated around that?
Yeah, thanks so much, Larry. Thanks so much for the panelists who have contributed to this conversation. I think for us, two major challenges that we are facing. Number one is lack of quality teachers. Because we have like a hub where we like produce animations. We have an animation room, we have a sound studio, we have a green screen where we create content. So sometimes it's difficult to just get people to come in and create content with you. Or can you teach me the basics of skeleton in maybe 20 minutes, using stories, teach me this, as if I don't know anything about biology, it's a major challenge, and it has wasted a lot of resources for us because we needed to keep trying different people, to be able to get the right contents that we are trying to, build. And also, secondly, is the fact that we don't have a strong ecosystem for education technology. Because as we are building our content, trying to promote the way learners are learning, we are also looking at the hardware community. And I'm even excited that I see Mr. Larry Ogundikwe on this call, who is currently building this Imperial Education Tech, building tablets, devices for students. So we are just trying to do our own thing. And we also need to work with hardware service providers like those who build hardware devices. So some of the things we're building can go on some of this platform. Lack of teachers' capacity, government engagement, the private sector, and also research and development for education technology. Because we can't just do this in isolation. I mean, we can't be working in isolation, trying to solve this problem. We need to continue to engage these people. But I mean, it's a bit difficult to engage these people that I've mentioned because we don't have a strong ecosystem that can enable some of the work that we are doing to scale. We can't just be innovating and we are innovating, we're working with teachers, and it's costing us more money to do this because the more we do try to test in the classroom, we are going back, oh, you need to do this. I mean, we're not getting it. It's not very easy for us to scale the work because of some of these things that I've mentioned. So, I mean, I just want to also add this to you that we need to work towards maybe building a stronger ecosystem, working with the hardware community, those who are building hardware technology, the internet service provider, the private sector, government. It's important that also in classroom, we want to encourage the use of projectors, the use of laptop. Teachers should not just come with just a lesson note on paper on maybe 40 leaves or 60 leaves. I don't know what they still use right now. That shouldn't be the only thing you should bring to the classroom. You should come with an like a flash drive. You're plugging into maybe your projector, and then you're also showing videos so students can learn through some of the content that you are building, and not just one way thing, talking and talking. Because I'm currently here in the United States as a Mandela Fellow and an award of the U.S. Department of State, and I've been discussing with different communities here where I was posted at the University of Delaware. I've had the opportunity of interacting with the education departments, the government, and I see how they are working together to create an education that fits their own purpose, not just a copy and paste system. And it's working for them, right? And I think that's one thing I think we also should be looking into, an Afrocentric kind of, our animation should express our culture. Our animation should express some of the things young people can relate with. And that's one of the things we stand for at Learner's Corner. We ensure that our teacher stories are stories of what students can relate with in the community. Some of our explanations, we use local content like Keke, Marua. We try to use explanations, they can see, they see every day, and not just to import case studies from developed countries and then you just dump everything on them. I mean, that's one of the things we're trying to do, and it has been very difficult. Like I said, I think I will encourage a more stronger ecosystem that can enable us to work together, that can enable us to leverage on resources of one another, like what Saka is doing, like what Sheon is doing, like what everybody is doing here, so we can leverage on what we are doing to be able to scale the work, because I think the idea of the work is to scale it, to increase the number, to increase the access, which may be very difficult in isolation for me as maybe Learner's Corner, because the only thing I can do more is to be building beautiful content, to be ensuring that teachers are able to use contents that can make learning more interesting, so students don't just come to the classroom and then they are tired. With the advent of social media platforms right now, I can sit in the classroom and I'm on TikTok already, and I'm not even listening to you anymore. We just in a second, like I'm not there anymore. How can we also use the TikTok format, the Instagram format, to create lessons, to create additional kind of content that will help learners to learn? Because if you see what some of our celebrities, our music actors right now, they will do instructional dance videos on Instagram, 1 minute, and young people learn over, they learn so fast, and before you know it, they're replicating it. They call it something challenge, and before you know it, 1 million streams, 2 million streams. How can we use that kind of system to drive access to education? How can we use that to drive learning? So I think that's what I would like to add. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Julius. You've provided so much insight. I mean, why should A be for apple and not A for agbalumo? Like, that's what our children see. We do not grow apples in our communities. We grow agbalumo. And you've said a lot around, the Afrocentric curriculum, research and development, building the ecosystem. And I believe that's why Future Perspectives is here as well. In the comment, I see Ike has, given us instructions about the survey that will be launched, and also the link for us to subscribe to their email to get further insights into how we're building the EdTech community. And so finally, for this question, I will go to Rachel to wrap up with the obstacles, and then we move on from there. Rachel? Rachel, are you there?
Hey, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello?
Thank you. Yes, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Hello?
Hello, Rachel, are you there? Okay, so since we can't connect with Rachel, we would move on. And thank you to all of the panelists that have addressed the obstacles. You've provided very useful insights. Rachel. All right, we have Rachel. Okay, Rachel, go ahead.
So sorry, my internet just went up for a bit. Thank you so much, Larry. I mean, great points a lot of my co-panelists have shared around innovating and also collaborating to innovate for our African and Nigerian markets, right? I think some of the obstacles that as an entrepreneur we've faced while building Old School, I would say generally educational data is very important, right? Just like there's a very high stake when it comes to like talking about health data, educational data is also as important, and privacy is something that a lot of innovators need to pay attention to, right? Now, a lot of EdTech platforms, when you're building EdTech platforms, people don't keep the GDPR regulations in mind. And these are some obstacles that has come over time. And we've had to kind of like, at some point, tell all of our staff, okay, guys, because you are working with data of millions of people, thousands of people, you want to be able to, we want to hold you accountable. And to hold you accountable, go take a GDPR course, and so that we can manage people's data effectively. Another thing is around regulations. Now, regulations, being that EdTech innovations are not as traditional as what normal traditional forward schools have, it means that there is a lot of obstacles around accreditation across working with policymakers and also collaborating with multiple stakeholders, right? Just like Victoria mentioned around adoption, a lot of parents, key stakeholders would be like, I'm not so sure my children should be working with these educational platforms. There's also the part of being that a lot of us are young, that regulatory policies are not so much in our favor, because some people would be like, some regulators, you guys are too young, what do you know, right? But the truth is we're building a future for ourselves. So regulations, we should have a bit of alignment around working on building regulations that work for EdTech platforms, because the idea is the world is moving. And even our regulators need to find a way to work with us to move forward. So working with us to build policies around all of these EdTech platforms, how data is being managed, how teachers are being, how quality checks are being placed on teachers, so that the world, whatever new solution we're building for the next 5 to 10 years, for the next decade, for the next century, we are collaborating on that. Then I think final obstacle that we majorly experience is funding. To build awesome stuff requires money, and not a lot of people don't have access to these resources. A lot of innovators don't have access to these resources. Investors would rather invest into fintech products because return on investment is faster. And to be fair, it's true, right? But when you invest into education, when you invest into one child, you are investing into a nation. So funding is something that I know a lot of us innovators and entrepreneurs experience obstacles with. I think there was a time we were fundraising for a period of time, and a lot of people would say, you know what, there's this other program, they are doing fintech, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing health tech. All of these are important. But then how can we work towards empowering a community that is going to also invest back into the ecosystem? And that starts from accessing more funding. How can we access this funding? How can we leverage all of the support we have to move away from this obstacle? I strongly believe in public-private partnerships, right? How can we collaborate with the government? How can we collaborate with the central bank to set up funds? I know that there's a Startup Act that is there, and a lot of innovators and founders of businesses, EdTech or even other tech companies are tapping into this Startup Act. However, as EdTech platforms, can there be some form of fund that is being set up out there? Because education is important. Part of the educational budget for the year or for the next 4 years, can part of it be allocated for EdTech innovators to access? Because if we're able to access this, we're able to expedite innovation. We're able to expedite building for each community. Let's say each local government has a fund, you tap into it, and then you put it back, like provide solutions that is being placed in these communities. You gather feedback from members of this community. You keep iterating, improving this solution. And then later, you're now able to tell members of this community, okay, we've been able to do this. We're able to provide more jobs. All of these are things that it connects at the end of the day. If we have access to more funding, if we're able to collaborate with the policymakers, if we're able to have collaboration with the central bank, if we're able to collaborate with the government, we would be able to move faster. It's not just about us EdTech platforms collaborating, is beyond EdTech platforms. Can the system also work for us so that we can help the system work? I think those are my 3 obstacles that I wanted to touch base on. Thank you so much, Larry.
Awesome. Thank God you were able to come back on, because you've touched on really important points. These are ecosystem challenges that faces a lot of EdTech innovators: funding, regulation, accreditation. But Rachel, I'd like you to kind of come back and tell us what GDPR means. Like, I mean, I'm sure you know what it means, but some of us on the call might not know what GDPR is. So please, can you tell us the full meaning of the GDPR?
Absolutely. Sorry about that. So that's Global Data Protection Regulatory, I think, yeah, Global Data Protection Regulations around that. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much. And so we've been talking a lot with our panelists, and now we're going to segue into speaking with practitioners, advocates, and some of the policymakers we have in the room. And, you know, we'll come back to you, our panelists. I'm sure everyone has enjoyed your contribution so far. And so we're going to move to the next section, and I'm going to bring on board someone very important, I mean, who is going to give us some insights. Dayo, are you on the call? Our first question for this round will be going to Dayo Otohiti, who is the CIO of Lagos Business School of the Pan-Atlantic University. And Dayo, I would like for you to share with us how you would define and describe standard learning practices at Lagos Business School. I mean, do you incorporate education technology? If yes, how? And considering the context I've set, how could EdTech further contribute to transforming education in Nigeria? I mean, that's a mouthful, but Dayo, I know you understand and you can help shed light into that. Dayo, over to you.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for the opportunity to be on this call. It's been interesting from the beginning, and I'm hoping that from this side, there'll be more insight into how EdTech has been used. If you want me to describe learning practices within Lagos Business School, one of the things that drives this answer in terms of reasoning with it is that the school has a pillar as part of its foundational pillars or learning pillars, which says that it wants to build a remarkable learning experience. So it means that from the overall perspective of management, there are key insights, key resources dedicated to building learning experience for participants and learners. That helps me define what the standard learning practice within Lagos Business School is. What this helps us do is, for few that have attended programs in Lagos Business School, we adopt what we call the case study method, where students analyze real-world business cases and engage in classroom discussions and sessions. But the key to that is we want to encourage active participation, collaboration, thinking, and we want to make sure that our learners are prepared for the real life world scenarios. Now, bringing that back to EdTech, what we do now incorporates a lot. What I mean by that is, for us to be able to give this kind of service to our students, we know that resources seem scarce. We know that we need to collaborate. We know that at times people are not always available where you want them. We've incorporated a lot of educational technology tools and into our learning curriculum or our approach, which includes e-learn, which includes hybrid teaching, which includes interactive simulations and a lot of things that would encourage active participation and will help us get the job done at the end of the day. So in terms of our learning practice, I would say it's rigorous, and it incorporates a lot of things that we have mentioned earlier on. And we are also trying to benchmark against world-class business schools to make sure we deliver that level of value. Larry, I don't know if that answers your questions, or you want me to still go on and define some of the things we do.
Okay, I mean, you still have like a minute or two. If you believe you can wrap up in 1 minute or two, please go ahead and delve in.
So I will describe an active classroom settings for you in terms of how it relates to educational technology. We have tools set up such that it allows us to be able to invite faculties, resource owners, people who will contribute to the lifestyle or will impact our students from any part of the world. So people can remotely come into our classes and give students the kind of maybe scarce knowledge we want them to have, based irrespective of their location all over the world. And it also gives us the privilege to even say, even if students are not able to make it physically to our campus, they can have live sessions in class, they can ask their questions, they can interact in real time. So we seem to have incorporated a lot of educational technology features into our model and our classrooms, and it's really working for us.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy I gave you that extra time to delve into that. Thank you so much, Dio. We're going to be going straight to Lanre. Was it Julius that mentioned Lanre during his discussion? And so I'm excited to bring Lanre Ogudikwe on board, who is the CEO of Imperial EdTech. He's a vibrant EdTech innovator in the space, many years of experience, and we brought him on board to kind of help us, look into how, he envisions the future of EdTech in Nigeria. Lanre, over to you.
All right. Good morning from here. Good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Lanre Ogudikwe, and thank you very much for having me here. I'm the CEO of Imperial EdTech. We're a 13-year-old education technology company. So I think we've been through the cracks and and everything within this space. So to speak about the future of education, I think of education technology, I think I'll just want to touch on a few things around what we do as an organization. At Imperial EdTech, our main focus is around infrastructure, hardware infrastructure, technology infrastructure to ensure that education can get to the last mile. We see so many people building wonderful products, and we didn't want to jump into that because there are already so many people doing it, and we know that it's going to be hard for us to get into that space as well. So we said one of the major problems we've seen is, lack of connectivity, and someone also mentioned access to devices as well. So we went ahead and got an OEM license that helps us to manufacture devices locally in Nigeria. And I can see the Commissioner of Education here. Thankfully, we've also supplied devices to the Lagos State government. Another thing we do is our content cloud servers that we're also assembling locally now in Nigeria. The content servers allow us to distribute content to the last mile. So all of these problems that are infrastructural are the things that we actually decided to solve, because we know that those are really the hard things. And we decided to go with the hard things because we have seen the hard part of it in our earlier days. So infrastructure is definitely something that we focused on. And our goal is to use technology to serve from the K-12 to higher education to also lifelong learning. A lot of conversations have been around, K-12 majorly, but I want to touch more around, higher education, which I think is one of the catalysts to actually, leapfrogging how we envision education technology. So what I believe is the future of education should definitely be collaborative. We've said that a lot of times. A lot of EdTech companies are working in silos. People want to deliver their solution to the last mile, but they don't know how it's going to get there because they don't have internet there. We have solutions that can get internet to the last mile. There are telcos that offer edge services that are almost free that we can also distribute in the last mile, where they don't need 4G internet as long as they're able to connect. So these infrastructural challenges are, the things that we would need to look at. We don't need more and more software. There's a lot of, you can almost find every EdTech provider that is building one software or the other to solve a challenge. So we need to focus on infrastructure. The future of education should be funded, intentionally funded and intentionally adopted. There should be a set of fund to actually build this infrastructure across Africa, across the states, across the country, not just around building schools, but making sure that every university has the infrastructure. Communities also have infrastructure. One of the statistics that we have, and one of the things that we also look at is the disconnect between academia and the industry, right? There are only 5 universities in Nigeria currently that offer education technology as a course. And some of them are not as developed as they should be. So we need to encourage that more within our academia. Also, another thing is localization. One of the things we're doing as well is ensuring that we're able to offer our tablets and our devices in local languages, so you can actually access things in local languages. We're working with a company called CDAL. It's an NLP company, local natural language processing. What they do, so we have a partnership with them. We have their technology, their AI technology, and we're building our tablets, our laptops to actually give you Yoruba language and all of those kind of things, English, Yoruba, Pidgin English, Igbo, so that, the family is where education starts from. So if you look at, before a child starts to learn English in school, he's already learned whatever language, they learn at home. So it's kind of difficult for them to start to adopt new languages, for them to now start to learn technology. So these are some of the things that we're solving for. And we also believe that it should be localized, like I said. And another thing is the research and development. There should be intentional R&D fund into education technology as part of the goals to spur nation building, as part of the things that should spur nation building, and also the borderlessness of it. We should ensure that education technology is borderless. It's not limited to a particular community, a particular area. If you look at some of the statistics that we have, almost 60% of Nigerian students in Nigerian universities are studying courses that they didn't even want. So you hear a lot of things like in the university space, like they gave me this course, they gave me this course. So it affects the outcome. So I'm speaking more to how education technology can help in the outcome of like employment and work and the workforce development, and if you look at, I use statistics a lot, over 2 million students write JAMB every year. Our universities can only take about 700,000 or 800,000 at the full capacity. So there's 1.2 million people who do not access higher education year on year. The only way we can leapfrog that is with technology. We have to find a way to get these people either laptops, tablets, content in some way that they are able to learn remotely. So those are the kind of infrastructural challenges that I believe that in the future we should be able to solve. And that's what I feel like the future of education should be. I mean, I have a couple of other things. I don't know if I still have some time to just go over a few more things, but I think I'll leave you there.
I'll give you 1 minute because you've shown that you're really experienced in this space.
All right. So I'm just going to work with data, more with data, right? So if we look at like the 10 most populous countries in Africa, right, and out of all of those 10 countries, there are 740 universities serving 660 million people, right? As opposed to the US, where there are 5,300 universities serving 323 million people. That shows you that, number one, for us to say we want to reach every single person, in the higher education space, we need to build thousands of universities to reach that. And it's almost impossible. So it's inevitable that we need to intentionally adopt education technology. Our population is going to 500 million by 2050. For us to be able to teach the people that are coming for posterity as well, we need to make sure that there's an intentional effort to work with education technology. And also UNESCO, who brought us together here, also gave us a data that the gross enrollment ratio for higher education in Sub-Saharan Africa is at 9% as compared to 40% in the world. So a lot of work has to be done. And I think that's the future that we envision. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm really happy I'm giving you guys extra time, because Dial's extra time, was very good, and your extra time has showed us more data as to why we need to invest in the future. Thank you very much, Lanre. And I'm going to move to two very special people who are going to come from the user's perspective. And I'm going to first call on Rashida. Rashida is a teacher, a literacy advocate who runs a mobile library. She's also a 1 Million Teacher Black Belt trainer and mentor. Rashida, I want you to help us, really address the benefits of an EdTech approach to transforming education from the user perspective. I mean, what benefits do you see?
All right, thank you very much, Larry, and good day to everyone on the call listening. The benefits are countless, but I will try to highlight some, and I have tried to split them to two major portions: benefits to the teacher and benefits to the learner. So the very core benefit for the teacher, of course, is improved professional development, teacher training, access. And I have been fortunate to be able to be part of a lot of programs where I have learned through EdTech startups and their products. So for example, 1 Million Teachers in collaboration with Queen's University has been able to provide a platform where we move through various belts to learn the latest in pedagogy and things that work in the classroom. I've also participated in numerous MOOCs from various organizations around the world. So I can say I'm a global teacher, even though I work in Abuja, Nigeria. I've also been fortunate to take some courses with Schoolinka, and I love all that we're doing in trying to build the capacity of the teachers, because you cannot give what you don't have. And we need to be able to raise the standards of our learners. And from the learner's perspective, technology is the future. We have to bring it into Africa. I'm loving the fact that we have so many people wanting to domesticate our EdTech. As a learner, you get better engaged if you have access to EdTech. So we have games that we use, we have different platforms, we have videos, we have audios, we have the cartoons like Julius was saying. There's so much that the children can access, and then you're linking in, tapping into the various forms of learning. The auditory learners are getting their own, the visual learners are getting their own, the kinesthetics can move. We have the VR goggles available to those of us in the highbrow areas, and our children can be transported from a classroom in Abuja to wherever you want them to be in the world. They can see the Egyptian pyramids, and it's as if they're touching it. So we need these types of technology to go further into the villages. You don't have to be in Abuja, you don't have to be in Lagos to experience all of these, but definitely with all of these tools, our learners are more engaged. They're also able to collaborate with each other. So recently in my classroom, I had a Kahoot game where I put my students in teams, and I heard them, communicating, negotiating. No, let's choose this. No, the answer is this. And that is what we need. The future is about that. Communication skills, collaboration skills, ICT skills, all of this, EdTech helps us to build it within our classroom. EdTech also brings in inclusion. So inclusion, I see it from two perspectives. For the special education learner, we have tools now that have text to speech. So if I cannot hear, for example, I have a reader that can read to me. If I cannot type, I can actually read speech to text. Also on the other, I can read out what I want to say, and it's typed up on a computer. I can submit my thoughts, I can submit my papers. That's from the special education standpoint. I also look at it from the standpoint of people that need to be working, but they want to further their education. So EdTech is able to help them, because we have synchronous means and we have asynchronous means. At your own convenience, you can be in your home and continue with your professional development. Another thing that I love EdTech for is that it gives you access at any time, and you can repeat a class without feeling ashamed. So if I'm in a physical classroom, if my student asks me, excuse me, ma'am, I didn't understand, can you explain again? And I explain again. And then second time, say, I didn't really understand, and I explain again. By the third time, he or she is not gonna ask anymore. But with EdTech, you can keep on revisiting the same concepts over and over again until you get it. Another thing that EdTech really helps us with that I love is assessment. And assessment is key. I mean, we talk about the fact that maybe promotion and grades are not that important, it's the knowledge, but how do you know that you have the knowledge? Exam may not be the best test, but the EdTech tools have provided us with various ways to actually check and understanding. You can use your self-assessment as a user. You play a game, you miss it, it tells you what to do, or you try again until you get it. You're assessing yourself. It's a form of formative assessment for you. And then of course we have the summative assessment. Something as simple as Google Forms can help you to conduct an assessment in a very fast way, and you get your results instantly. As a teacher, I love using Google Forms for assessments because I don't have to start ticking. While I'm preparing my questions, I've already put in the answer rubric. So at the end of the day, I get my scores like within a second, and it's good for me. Another thing, finally, I think that I would mention about the benefit for the learner and the teacher is the idea of the learning management system. It helps with generation of data. It helps with even small things as registration. So we have this register that we have to tick every day, and at the end of the day, we do the calculations. We still have the manual copies because of Ministry of Education. But once I'm imputing my attendance on a computer, at the end of the day, those calculations are done for me almost automatically. It saves my time. I don't have to use so much time doing that. And I can generate different types of data around attendance, around achievement, around different things using my learning management systems. And for administration in classes, I have the Google Classroom, which came in really handy for us as a school. We used it during the COVID lockdown, and our students were able to continue with their learning. We also have the Microsoft Teams that some people use. And I have been introduced to EdVest, which is also another learning management system, which is specific to our own local content. We have, there's so much, and I'm happy to hear about people, wanting to collaborate with teachers, bringing out comics and cartoons and videos that we can use. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rashid. I'm tempted to give you 1 extra minute because everyone has used it, very well. Do you have one last thing you want to say that's on your mind? Or I can move on to Karimat.
No, I think that there is so much. I did remember that in my points, I jotted down that EdTech can also help with classroom management. So classroom management sometimes, especially in the age where we can no longer use a cane, to deal with the children, can be a big issue for teachers. But if you have your EdTech helping you to organize your class, to keep your learners engaged, early finishers can go to the computer system and do something, can have the tablet and do something, can create their own scratch game, whatever. There's a lot that we use to engage them now because we have EdTech. I'm looking forward to Learner's Corner. I'm thinking of my own local content that even though my children are in Abuja, there are some things we get outside that are not so suitable for us. There's this class dojo that is also very good in keeping, behavioral points and point systems, point-based systems that help with classroom management. Also a very good thing. It would be nice to have a contextualized type of that, but there's so much that you can do with EdTech. Thank you.
You see, this extra minute has paid off so well. So many good insights come at the extra minute. So I'm going to ask the same question to Karimat. Karimat Odebode is the founder of Black Girls Dream Initiative. Karimat, please, can you address the same question that Rashid?
Thank you so much, Larry. It's really nice, listening to all of the conversations. And then I think that what Rashida talked about, the benefit of EdTech, it's right on point. And then we should also realize that we live in a digital world. The world is now a global village. And then we could connect with somebody. I'm in Nigeria, I could connect and learn from somebody in China. And when we talk about EdTech, yes, we are using technology for everything. And it's very important that one thing that can transform the world, that can change the behavioral, aspect of a child should also be we should also take more cognizance when it comes to that. And we should also find and also invest in technology for education. The benefit of EdTech is very, very, very vast. And I think I would want to talk about the one thing it also promotes is that, there are more engagement between the students. Students can make it a moment for them to collaborate. They can have this collaborative learning where they collaborate on so many things amongst themselves. It also supports linear learning. When we have, a curriculum that is, digitized and then students have access to it from A to Z, it's allow them to, pace their knowledge. It also has this behavioral thing that, that happens, when it comes to knowledge. So when we talk about collaborative learning, linear learning, these are the things that EdTech, support. Also, the innovative aspect of EdTech cannot be, overemphasized. It has a way of, improving innovation among students. They have access to things that can change the future. And then this is something that it can also use to, profile solutions and also bring about innovation. I would also want to shine light on what we do at the Black Girls Dream Initiative. For the past 3 years, we understand that learning is beyond black and white. I mean, it's also beyond the 4 walls of the classroom. And so this is what we do. We go to secondary schools in the city of Ibadan, and then we teach them the basic soft skills of, public speaking, debating, and critical learning. And this is very important because it has a way of preparing them for the future of work. And then beyond that, how do we introduce EdTech into it? We understand that digital tools are very much important, and we support students when we teach them the basic skills of critical thinking, debating, and public speaking. We give them these digital tools like laptops to support their learning and also to make them more productive in their various classroom. So those are one of the things I wanted to talk about that. And I also wanted to go back to the fact that the world is a digital village and we can learn from each other. I also want to spotlight back to last year September during the Transform Education, where people came together to talk about the importance of transforming education. Young people, high-level leaders came to talk about that. And then I had the opportunity of co-presenting the Youth Declaration to the United Nations General Assembly in September at the UN General Assembly in New York. And one of the things that really stood out for me, it's the importance of digitalization of education. And paragraph 20 of this Youth Declaration talked about calling on decision makers to invest in the digital infrastructure. And we see that when we invest in digital infrastructure of education, it has a way of giving us stable access to education, affordable education. When we talk about EdTech, people think that it's something that is very big, the VRs and something. It's something as little as using the radio as a means of education. We know how Nigeria is. We have the low class and the high class. People living beyond $1, they do not have access to computers or high-end technology. But of course, there are so many EdTech companies that are using radios. This is very accessible to people. They use it as a means of education for students. So yes, that's one of the things. It's a way of the affordability gap also. It has a way of letting learning be affordable to people that do not have access to getting quality education that is beyond their reach. Also, the flexibility. Students can be in their room, can be anywhere and then learn. I can be in Nigeria and then take courses in China, in the United States of America. So yes, we cannot overemphasize the flexibility of EdTech and also the accessibility. It gives students the accessibility to so many curriculums, to knowledge, and so many things. And also the future of works is very important, that the world is changing, and then we have to keep up with what is happening. And keeping up also, it has a way of reflecting on the students. So when we expose students to the use of digital tools and also trying as much as possible to migrate them from black and white to also the digital aspect of education, it has a way of preparing them for the future of works and what they are going to what are going to get when they leave the black and white scenario. Also, it also accommodates multiple learning styles. We can talk about using VR, talk about using radio, talk about using television, and also the internet, self-paced knowledge, and so many things. So it's not limited to teachers writing out their curriculum, writing their lesson plans and all the other things. Students are going to have wide range of multiple learning styles, like using the radio. It could be recording classes, curriculums, and then having the self-paced, how they can go about it by themselves. So more like a self-paced knowledge management. And yes, collaboration amongst the students cannot be overemphasized also. It also has a way of improving soft skills like collaboration amongst them. And then yes, I talk about the flexibility and also better engagement when it comes to knowledge. Yes, so I think that those are the few things I have about the benefits.
Thank you. And I want to pick, so I'm not going to give you the 1 minute, right? Because you've said a lot, but you mentioned something very critical that is going to lead me to the next speaker. You said, how do we engage the decision makers and the policy, those that can help to shape policy. We have amongst us someone very special, the immediate past Commissioner for Education for Lagos State, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, who is going to help us to understand the kind of support that should be given by other stakeholders, including teachers, educational institutions, decision makers, the school community, to enhance the role and potential of EdTech in transforming education in Nigeria. Someone that has seen it all while she was in office, it would be great for Mrs. Adefisayo to help us wrap up this round with that answer. Mrs. Adefisayo? You're welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Harry, and it's great to be here. I thank the organizers for inviting me. This is something very, very important indeed, and I'm very excited to be here. I'm sorry I came in late, so I didn't hear all your speakers, but I did hear Rachel, and it really touched me, especially when she mentioned that you mentioned what they need from the regulators. She said they need funding, they need regulation, they need accreditation, and some other things. I hope I'm right. And when I was thinking through this question too, I was wondering that how can we help? Well, first of all, let me be frank and say that the regulators, government, stakeholders, and so on, we don't really know much about EdTech. Now, I've been involved. I've even been involved in mentoring and supporting 1 or 2 young EdTech companies, and but most of us are really, really far from this. We don't really understand what is happening, and I think the first thing is that we just have to build knowledge among the regulators. We have to let them know what this is all about. It seems like some frightening thing that, and maybe when we were young, we read a lot of comics about robots taking over the world. So it seems that what is happening is we're going in that direction, and human beings are soon going to be obsolete. You know, that's a rather frightening scenario that this is painting. And so there's no doubt that we really have to tell people about what this is. We have to tell people what this is about. That you can't wish it away, you can't run away from it. This is the future. And if this is the future, the first thing you have to do is equip yourself with the knowledge and understanding about this future that is sure to come or is even here already. So there must be a great deal of intentionality. And I think that's one thing the EdTech sector has to do. And one of the reasons why it's a bit hard for them at times is because I've seen many EdTech solutions. A lot of people come to me. I still talk to a lot of EdTech providers. But what I see often is that many of them are not really educationists, and many of them have not engaged with educationists. So sometimes their solutions are really not practical, and some of the solutions really are not things that we can really do in Nigeria yet. They don't understand what the environment in Nigeria is like. Remember when Larry was talking, I know you don't do, but there are children even in Lagos State who have never, I came across children who had never seen a television set. And people will wonder that in this day and age, a child has never seen a television set. So you can imagine that they have no access whatsoever to technology. So again, some of the solutions are impractical, and maybe we need to do more work with, I think the country needs a definite policy on EdTech, a definite policy on these solutions. I think we need to start engaging the private sector, the public sector, EdTech solution providers, school owners, and government policymakers. Honestly, we have to find a gathering where we talk to each other, understand what is happening, and start to develop a framework where we can utilize EdTech solutions. Because as it is now, I will feel for EdTech solution providers. There are many of them, but many schools are extremely resistant, extremely uninterested, or not even ready to pay at all. I think that is also there. They're not ready to pay a penny. And of course, this is the way this person earns a living. He deserves to be paid for his cerebral work as well as his physical work and financial investment. So I think we really have to do a lot of bridge building between the public sector, between policymakers and EdTech providers, some of whom are really doing interesting and exciting things that can change the face of education. Remember when, I'm sorry, I don't want to, the lady, the 2 teachers were talking. I was so excited and said, oh, why am I not a teacher? in this day and age. Classroom now looks very exciting. Classroom looks like something that anybody would enjoy. The children would enjoy because it's so engaging. The teachers have a lot of tools that they are deploying. But you can tell that there's still so much work that we need to do. So for me, I thought, first of all, that we really need to find a way to engage everybody. The other things that it's clear that government has to do is that government has to come up with regulations, because it's an all-comers affair, and there are all sorts of solutions. And we know that some of these solutions can take children to all sorts of places. I was part of a group that looked at something where they said, oh, click on this, click on that. Do you know that we eventually found ourselves very close to a website that was selling drugs? So clearly, there must be regulation. There must be, I think government needs to take leadership in this and build the partnerships and collaboration, like I said, but we need to build regulation into this to ensure that it's not something that everybody does and then we start doing also things that mislead our children. And then regulation is necessary to build sustainability. So I really think that conversation has to take place. Not just conversation about how we can collaborate together, all partners involved, but also the developing a framework, a deliberate and intentional framework that will enable us, use EdTech solutions in the classroom. Definitely, government has to provide some sort of funding. I believe that you have to fund innovation and grants. And here I think Lagos State does have an innovation ministry, a department in the Ministry of Technology, Science and Tech, where they've been funding a number of solutions. We worked to some artificial intelligence. The early days of artificial intelligence, actually, before ChatGPT and so on came on, we had a solution that seemed so magical. And the person got a grant. We also worked with other organizations that got grants from Ministry of Science and Tech. So I think maybe we need to work harder at that. Definitely there's an innovation center coming up in Yaba, and I'm hoping that EdTech will be able to play a major role, because as we know, Yaba is the Silicon Valley of Nigeria. So hoping that these solutions will come through from there. So definitely government has to fund innovation, fund grants, support these EdTech solution providers. And another thing that government has to do is teaching and teacher training, because we have to upskill the teachers. The two teachers are spoke, they are fantastic, but there are too many teachers who are out of the digital space entirely. And so we have to build it into their initial teacher training, whether it's NCE or at a B.Ed level. And then schools, again, have to upskill teachers, keep on training them, supporting them, giving them the tools and the resources with which to develop EdTech solutions and work on existing EdTech solutions in class. I can imagine, and I also think that teachers can be major consultants to many of these EdTech solution providers. So again, there's room for collaboration in there. The final thing, there are so many things that I want to talk about, but let me just talk now about mentoring and coaching and support. I think that educators across the whole, the broad landscape, the broad ecosystem must also start coming together and collaborating, mentoring, coaching, and supporting these EdTech solution providers. Because like I said, I have dealt with quite a number, and I've seen that they mean well. They are very good with technology, but they are sometimes not very good with the educational side of it. And so their solutions may not be what we are looking for at the moment, may not be practical, may not be in sync with our curriculum and with our schemes of work. So I think it's time for some coaching, some mentoring, some collaboration between these two. I went to a school once and they told me that the way they worked with coaches and mentors is that every old teacher, non-digital teacher, had a coach and mentor in a very young teacher who was tech savvy. But that tech savvy young teacher also had a coach who taught them through, who would help them through things like settling down in school, managing the politics of school, because there's politics everywhere anyway, and who would help them settle down and become great teachers. So I think there's some symbiosis, there's great possibility for us to have these relationships across board, and I'm very excited about this. I hope this is the beginning of something that is going to be much greater than all of us can comprehend. Like I said, a lot more to be said, but I think what my strongest point here is that we've just got to find a way by which all the stakeholders come together and develop a framework for working, for regulating, for governing, for leading in this space, for funding this space, for managing the innovation that must surely come, and and for ensuring that this space is able to deliver what's supposed to deliver. I'll end by talking about, Lanre talked about universities. They are supposed to, the statistics shows that there are minimum of 10 million children out of school in Nigeria. We even have recent data that says that 20 billion. Those who've done the maths have said, look, we'll need like 100,000 classrooms. There's no way we are going to build 100,000 classrooms. So it is clear that the power of technology is what we are going to have to use to solve our major educational problems by way of out-of-school children so that they have access, by way of quality of teaching and learning, by way of assessment, by way of even, a career building, because I know people we are also churning out graduates who are not appropriate for the workplace of the future. So again, there are solutions that would address all that. So there are so many solutions. They run the whole gamut of education. And I think there's a lot to be done. Exciting times, though, actually. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed, exciting times. And like you've said, this is the beginning of something great. And I would like the immediate past VP, Professor Shivajo, to respond and to, everyone has been talking and speaking, and I'll just like him to chime in before we call on the youth innovators again. Thank you so much, Mrs. Adefisayo. You've made very important points. I'd like to hand it over to Prof.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And I think this has been an incredibly informative morning or afternoon, depending on, of course, on where you are. I really want to just say a few things about some of what has been said already. I'm particularly intrigued by the talk around regulation. How do we regulate the space? Because, I think a point that was made, I think it was Rachel who made the point around standards. How do you set standards? And standards are important, because otherwise, how do you determine what is safe for young people to use, what is safe, especially for children? And we're talking a lot about basic education. Now, one of the things I think a learning experience for me was how operators in the fintech space were able to influence regulation. So quite a few, of course, you know that there are several fintech companies that have been able to play actively in the financial intermediation space in Nigeria. And one of the ways by which they were able to do so was by coming together. We had at some point something that was called the technology and entertainment subgroup of our industrial committee, and that subgroup had quite a few young people who were in the tech space. They were able to develop a set of ideas and policies that we then engaged the central bank with. So what you then found was that, in the past, if you wanted to set up any type of financial institution, you had to pay 25 billion, because that's really is what your capital has to be to set up a financial institution. But with the different policies that they were able to come up with and different ideas, about 6-7 different categories of licenses, or financial licenses, were then put in place. We then enabled several fintech companies to be able to play in the space, paying very little. And that, of course, led to a complete transformation of fintech in Nigeria. So I think that what we need to do with education and with EdTech in particular is to bring together a community, such as we have today, an EdTech community, that can then speak to each other and formulate ideas that can be the basis for engaging regulators. If we insist that government should do all of this work, you will find, of course, that the regulations will not be the sorts of regulations that you want. Invariably, policymakers in government have a different set of ideas about how things should be done. And I think that collaboration is so important, that it's important that the current, this is, for example, look at the number of incredible ideas we've seen, and so many operators here today who clearly can inform who can inform the sort of engagements that we're talking about. I think it was Julius who said he was concerned about a weak EdTech ecosystem, making content creation difficult, etc. I agree fully that that's a problem. But I think that this opportunity is one that we should take to be able to develop an ecosystem, or begin the foundations of an ecosystem that can work for various reasons, that can work for policy formulation, for content creation, which was one of the concerns that he had. Then the other thing I wanted to mention or talk about, and this has been also talked about extensively, is scale. How does all this scale up? How do we scale these things up? Again, I think it comes back to collaboration, because really we are dealing with huge numbers. And I think a lot of this has been mentioned also by Mrs. Adefisayo, who, I think we are dealing with huge numbers. You're dealing with 6 million new young people every year. That's the rate of our growth as a country. We can't have tiny little solutions dealing with a couple of hundred people here and there. We've got to find a way of really scaling up, so that we're able to deal, with the huge numbers. Just as Mrs. Adefisayo said, we're not, brick and mortar is completely out of it. No matter how many hundreds of thousands of classrooms we build, aside from the cost of those classrooms, and of course equipping the classrooms, it's clear that we can never catch up with the number of people that are coming out every day, with the number of young people that require education every day. There's no way we can catch up. So EdTech is clearly the solution. The only question is, how do we scale? How do we catch up with the numbers that we have? So I'm really excited about all the prospects that this has shown. But I think that the critical questions that have been raised are questions that we now need to deal with. And we're at a point where, yes, we've talked very well about all of these issues. How do we take this to the next level? How do we develop, an ecosystem that is able to come together to proffer regulation? How do we develop an ecosystem that's able to proffer ideas on how to scale up? And how do we collaborate? So I think that those are some of the questions that I'd, like us to take on going forward. But thank you very, very much, everyone. This has been an incredibly great learning experience for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And we do appreciate you helping us wrap up. And as we have just the last minute for this session, I'm going to call on Nike. This is how we're going to go about it. Nike is going to help us summarize and help us wrap this up. But while we're doing that, I want all our young panelists, young innovators, to, in the comment section, just give us in a sentence what the future they see for the EdTech space. And while that is going on, Nike will be wrapping up in the last minute.
Thank you very much, Lanre. Thanks to everyone. What a truly illuminating and enlightening session that we've had today. I think the immediate has really kind of led us to the right flow, which is, what can we do about building this ecosystem? Today has been very rich. We've had very interesting insights and innovative solutions, ideas from our panelists. My personal experience with education was, I was a science student in secondary school. And I studied accounting in university, essentially because it was just the course that was available to look for admission. So you can imagine hearing from this, our panelists on how inspiring their journey has been. They saw a challenge in the market, they created solutions, and they're serving their communities. This is amazing stuff, and we thank them for their contributions. I just want to summarize 3 main points. Obstacles, opportunities, and the skills. The obstacle is always the way. We've heard a lot of talk around policy and regulation. It is an obstacle, but policy and regulation, standards, funding, stakeholders engagements, these are also all the opportunities that we have to deepen, strengthen, and build this ecosystem. In terms of opportunities, we've heard very exciting ideas emerge today. And I think everybody has emphasized this point, which is the fact that we need to create this ecosystem, build it, find a way to use it to shape and advocate for policy, and foster collaboration. I mean, a lot of people talked about how the fintech gets the funding, but maybe this is the way for EdTech, which is working together, collaborating together. Just listen to the different panelists, you can hear how each of their innovative solutions interact and intersect. And this is what I believe will help to achieve the scale that we're trying to see. We also heard interesting ideas and opportunities for increasing intentional R&D for EdTech, or even to see educational technology as a course in the future. So I think that these have been very, very interesting points. And then we heard our speakers talk about the skills that are essential. And this is the crux of the session today. We were trying to tease out what are those skills that EdTech innovators really require to be able to scale and to launch and scale their initiatives. We heard about skills like emotional intelligence being important, high-level instructional design. I thought that was really interesting because even when the commissioner spoke, she talked about how there was a disconnect between some of the solutions and some of the practices that are seen. So communication, something interesting that came out was futures literacy. That was an interesting idea. So this is all very interesting for what happens next with this seminar. In November, the VP mentioned it during his opening remarks, the immediate vice president, during his opening remarks, there will be an EdTech training in November. And it's the next step in this journey. EdTech stands for Innovation to Transforming Education training. And it's going to be a 5-day in-person training that will be targeting 50 educational EdTech innovators. The exact dates will be communicated closer to the dates. And we enlist the support of everyone here to help us identify. I saw comments in the group, oh, we need diversity, we need more people from different parts of the country. Help us to do that. Help us to find those innovators that we can imbue with these necessary skills in November. I'll take this opportunity to also speak about the survey. The survey, we're sharing the survey to gain further insights about this kind of pretty much what we've talked about today, but it's going to share further insights about, it will provide us with feedback on how to create this content that is going to be shared at the EdTech training in November. So please do, you will find the link in the chat box, share it far and wide with your networks, fill it out yourselves. We want as much people as possible to be able to fill out the forms, give us their insights, their perspectives, to be able to develop that content. And finally, I would just encourage all of us to continually stay engaged. We are, you can follow us on our websites, www.futureperspective.org, and also on www.ilsac.unesco.org. We have We're available on all the social media handles, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. You can also follow the immediate Vice President's handle at Prof. Osibanjo, the SDG Youth Network. All those links are being populated in the chat box as we speak. And finally, I would like to seize the opportunity to thank everyone that has spoken here today and shared their insights, their experiences, our inspiring panelists, our partners, our remarkable, exciting, uplifting moderator, Lanre, for guiding us through this session today. You've done a tremendous job. And even you, the participants that have, engaged with us in the comments, you're giving us fodder, like for shaping the training. And the VP said something about scale. We need to scale this up. Behind every seemingly smooth event, there is a team of people that work tirelessly to make this happen. I need to acknowledge Abby, Lily, Julia. Julia is a tech whiz. Ike, Yemi making the connections happen. Ike, those wonderful videos you saw, they all created that. And the UNESCO IT and Comms team, Edward and Claudia, you guys did an amazing job. So not to take out too much of your time, we're already 6 minutes after time. Let us keep up these conversations. Let's keep engaging. We have a mailing list on Future Perspectives website. Subscribe to that mailing list. Get on this wagon. It's going to be really exciting as we use technology to transform education in Nigeria. Thank you so much. Have an amazing, amazing day today.